stop for a moment. Don't move. Don't skip. Because in the next hour, something is going to shift in your spirit, and the moment you feel it, you will know that you were brought to this exact place, at this exact hour, for a reason that is bigger than coincidence. Archangel Michael has a word for you today, not for the crowd, for you. He sees what you have carried quietly, without fanfare, without anyone truly understanding the weight of it. And what he is about to say is not something the world will say to you. The world will not say it. Your family may not say it, but heaven is saying it right now, directly to you. You were right to be angry. You were right. When that doctor looked through you instead of at you, when they brushed your concerns aside with a clipboard and a hurried hand, when they told you something was fine, something that was not fine, and you felt it deep in the marrow of your bones that they were wrong, you were right. And now Archangel Michael is here to tell you that what happened after what you lost, what you grieve, what keeps you awake at 3 in the morning replaying that appointment has not been forgotten. Not by heaven, not for a single second. Don't skip this. Hold on through every word, because by the time we reach the end of what I'm about to share with you, you will feel something loosen in your chest that has been locked there for a very long time. A grief, a rage, a question you stopped asking because no one could answer it. Heaven is answering it today. You were guided here. You didn't stumble onto this message by accident. The same force that holds the stars in their places guided your hand to press play. And Archangel Michael, the great warrior of heaven, the one who stands at the threshold between injustice and divine reckoning, he is standing with you right now as you listen to these words. My beloved child, let me tell you what heaven sees when it looks at you. It sees someone who sat in a waiting room for a very long time. Not just a waiting room with the beige chairs and the old magazines and the smell of antiseptic, though heaven saw that room too. It sees the longer waiting you have been doing ever since. Waiting for someone to acknowledge what happened. Waiting for justice that never seemed to come. Waiting to hear the words, I believe you. You were right. Let me tell you about the day they dismissed you, or the day they dismissed your loved one, the one you brought to that appointment, because you knew something was wrong, because you had watched their face change, because you knew their body better than any medical chart ever could. You sat across from a person with credentials on the wall and concern nowhere in their eyes, and you said, something is not right. And they looked at you or through you and they said, everything is fine. Come back in 3 months. Take this. You're anxious. You're overthinking. These things take time. And you went home. You went home with that sinking feeling still sitting in your stomach. You watched and you worried and you prayed. You checked on them every hour. You made notes. You called the office and left messages that went unreturned. You did everything a loving, attentive, devoted person does when they know something is wrong. You did it all. Don't skip this part. Pay very close attention, because what happened next is the part that changed everything. Something changed. The way they looked, the way they moved, the way they got tired in the middle of the day. And by the time you got back to that office or the emergency room or the specialist, it was too late to undo what those months had cost. And the person you loved, the person you were fighting for, the person you were trying to protect, they are gone now. And you are still here, holding the weight of that dismissal like a stone that has never left your hands. Heaven sees you at the kitchen table going over it again. Heaven sees you in the car, listening to silence, replaying that appointment and asking yourself, What if I had pushed harder? What if I had gone to a different doctor? What if I had demanded more? And heaven wants you to know right now that the anger you feel, that deep, holy, righteous anger, is not a sin. It is a testimony. It is the cry of a faithful heart that was failed by a human system, and heaven has heard every word of it. Type, "God heard my cry," in the comments if you feel this in your spirit. Let heaven know you are here. Let heaven know you have been waiting for this word. This message doesn't stop with you. It reaches the one who is still searching, still doubting, still crying out in the dark. If this ministry has strengthened your faith, consider strengthening someone else's. When you give through the link in the description or pinned comment, whether by buying a coffee, partnering monthly, or joining our Ko-fi community, you're not funding content. You're fueling the Great Commission. Every gift becomes gospel carried further. Every act of generosity pushes light into places we may never physically stand. There are people one message away from hope, one prayer away from surrender, one encounter away from salvation. Your generosity helps us reach them. This is more than support. It's participation. You're stepping into the harvest field with us. And when heaven counts the souls reached, your obedience will be written into their story. If the Spirit is prompting you, don't ignore it. Step into the work. Let's bring the lost home. The phone on your nightstand, the quiet house, the chair that still holds the shape of someone who is no longer here. The grief you carry is not small. It is not simple. It is layered because you are not only grieving the person you lost, you are grieving the version of events where someone listened, where someone took you seriously, where things were caught in time. You are grieving a future that was taken, and the person who took it may not even know your name. But something is happening in the unseen realm. Don't skip this. This is the part that matters most. Archangel Michael is not only here to sit with your grief, he is here to show you what is happening on the other side of it. That doctor has not been sleeping well. I want you to hear that. Not to gloat, heaven does not call you to gloat. But because you have spent months or years wondering if anyone was ever going to be held accountable, and the answer is yes, yes, they are being held accountable, not only in the courts of heaven, but in the quiet courts of their own conscience. Because God is a God of reckoning, and the reckoning has already begun. There is a particular kind of divine disruption that heaven sends to those who have caused harm through carelessness or pride. It does not always look like lightning. It does not always arrive with fanfare. It arrives in the night, in the quiet moments when there is nothing to distract from the truth. It arrives in a memory that surfaces without warning. It arrives in the face of someone else's grief that looks too familiar. It arrives in a colleague's question that cuts a little too deep. Pay close attention. Something very important is coming. Archangel Michael is saying that the person who failed you, who failed your loved one, is being visited by these memories. The appointment, the words they used, the chart they glanced at too quickly, the test they decided was unnecessary, the concern they waved away. These moments are surfacing in their mind, and they cannot make them stop. They have tried distraction. They have tried burying themselves in the next patient, the next case, the next day. But heaven has placed your story like a stone in their shoe, and every step they take, they feel it. The prideful narrative they told themselves that they did everything right, that outcomes like this are simply part of medicine, that you were just an anxious family member who didn't understand God. is dismantling that narrative brick by brick. The confidence they wore like armor is developing cracks, and in those cracks, the truth is beginning to grow. Type, "Heaven sees what happened if you receive this word." Type it as a declaration. Let it be a marker in the spirit. What you sacrificed in those weeks, those months, the sleep you lost, the work you set aside, the fear you swallowed every morning when you woke up and checked on the one you loved, all of that is being remembered now. Not just by you, not just by heaven. It is being remembered by the very person who chose not to remember it when it would have made a difference. And that remembrance is not comfortable for them. It was never going to be comfortable. It was always going to cost them something, and the bill has come due. The sacrifices you made are being reviewed in the halls of heaven like a sacred account. Every phone call you made, every appointment you drove to, every night you lay awake running through symptoms because you loved someone so much you would not let yourself stop trying. That is the kind of devotion that heaven keeps record of, and it will be honored. Don't move from where you are. Don't skip ahead. What I am about to tell you is the part that will begin to loosen the stone in your chest. Stay with me. There was a moment recently, perhaps last week, perhaps last month, when something cracked in the person who failed you. Maybe it was a patient who reminded them of your loved one. The same tired eyes, the same way they gripped the edge of the examination table, the same family member sitting in the corner, watching, worrying, asking the questions that are easy to dismiss when you are busy and overconfident and moving too fast. And something in that moment stopped them cold. Something in that moment made the clipboard feel very heavy in their hand. They went home differently that night. They sat somewhere, a kitchen, a car, a quiet office after everyone else had left, and they thought about your loved one. They thought about your face. They thought about the words you said that they did not record in the chart, the concerns you raised that they did not investigate, the call you made that went unreturned. They thought about it in a way they have not allowed themselves to think about it before. Don't blink. Something very big is coming your way. There are things that a person in a position of medical authority does to protect themselves from the weight of every outcome they cannot control. They build walls. They use clinical language. They remind themselves of statistics. They lean on the systemic defenses their profession provides. But Archangel Michael is saying today that those walls are coming down. The clinical language is failing them. The statistics bring no comfort in the dark, and the systemic defense they hope to hide behind is offering less shelter than it used to, because God does not let the pain of the innocent simply evaporate. He collects it, He stores it, and when the time is right, when the heart of the person who caused the harm has been softened enough by divine disruption, He presents it back to them, not to destroy them, not to undo what cannot be undone, but to produce the one thing that has been missing, an honest reckoning. There have been nights when that reckoning has come close to the surface, nights when the phone was in their hand, and they thought about reaching out to a colleague, to a review board, to a grief counselor, to someone who could hold the weight of what they are beginning to understand. And pride has stopped them. Pride and the fear that acknowledgement means liability. Pride and the voice that says, "It was a long time ago. There is nothing to be done. You did your best." But God is peeling away the comfortable lies one by one. And the story they have been telling themselves, "You did your best. There was no way to know." These things happen is being replaced slowly and painfully with the truth. The truth that you saw something they missed. The truth that your concern was valid. The truth that the person you loved deserved more time. Type, "My loved one's life had value," in the comments right now. Type it as a declaration of their worth. Let heaven record it. The silence from that person, the absence of any accountability, any acknowledgement, any apology, that silence has felt like indifference. But Archangel Michael is saying today, it is not indifference, it is shame. It is the paralysis of a person who does not know how to cross the distance between what they did and what they owe. Shame is not the same as not caring. And understanding that difference will begin to change the shape of what you have been carrying. They are not at peace, and they will not be at peace until the truth has been spoken. And the truth is being spoken today in the heavenly realm, where every chart that was filled out too quickly, every concern that was dismissed too easily, every patient who deserved more time, is being held up to the light of divine justice. Your loved one is in that light, and their worth is being declared. This is the part most people scroll past. Don't, because what I am about to share with you is something that heaven is preparing in the heart of the person who failed you. And whether it comes through a letter, through a conversation, through a legal process, or through the quiet testimony of their own conscience before God, these words are being formed, and you deserve to hear them. The words that are coming are these: I am sorry. I am sorry for not listening. I am sorry for not taking the time that your loved one deserved. I moved too fast. I was overconfident. I told myself that the statistics meant everything was probably fine. And I did not stop to consider that statistics do not hold the hands of the people they describe. Your loved one was not a statistic. They were a person, and I failed them, and I failed you. These are the words heaven is preparing. Not for a courtroom necessarily, though accountability may come in many forms. These are the words that are being formed in the deepest and most private chambers of that person's conscience. And they are true, they are honest, and they are long overdue. Don't skip this. Stay with me. The words continue. I have thought about your family. I have thought about the questions you asked that I did not answer well. I have thought about the appointment, the one that could have changed things. I have told myself for a long time that I should not dwell on it, that there is nothing to be done, that the outcome may not have been different even if I had acted sooner. But I know in the part of myself I cannot lie to that it might have been, that there was a chance I did not take, and that chance belonged to your loved one. And it was not mine to discard. Do you hear those words, my beloved child? Can you let yourself hear them? Because heaven is speaking them over your grief right now. The validation you have been waiting for, the acknowledgement that you were right, that what you felt was true, that the anger you have carried was not irrational or excessive, but was the reasonable response of a loving heart to a real injustice. That validation is being declared in the spirit today. The words that are coming include this: you were right about everything, about the symptoms, about the urgency, about the timeline, about the feeling that something was being missed. You were right, and I was wrong, and I am sorry that you were the one left standing with the cost of my error while I moved on with my life. That is not fair. It was never fair, and I am beginning to understand, truly understand what it cost you. God is collecting the fragments of your broken heart right now, my beloved child, piece by piece. The fragment that shattered when they told you everything was fine. The fragment that broke when you knew it wasn't. The fragment that fell when when you lost the person you were fighting for. The fragment that cracked every time you replayed the appointment in your mind. God is gathering every single one. He has not lost track of a single piece, and he is doing something sacred with them. Type, "I was right and heaven knows it" in the comments. Type it as your declaration of vindication. Let it go out into the spirit like a trumpet. Revival doesn't spread by accident. It spreads because believers decide to act. If this message stirred something in you, imagine what it could do for someone who has never heard truth spoken with clarity. When you give through the link below, whether once or as an ongoing partner, you help send the gospel beyond this moment. You become part of every testimony, part of every restored heart, part of every soul that turns back to Christ. Your generosity turns sermons into lifelines and videos into divine appointments. Scripture tells us that some plant, some water, but God brings the increase. Today, you can be the one who plants. If you believe souls matter, this is your opportunity to move from agreement to action. Let's reach them while there is still time. But before we go further, God wants to sit with you in the pain for a moment, because what he is about to show you next is something even more important than the apology. He wants to see you fully, completely, without any part of your grief being rushed past or minimized. He wants to sit across the table from you and look you in the eye and say, "I know, I was there, I am still here, my beloved child. The world does not have a category for what you are carrying. There are grief groups for those who have lost someone to illness. There are support systems for those navigating medical systems. But there is almost nowhere that acknowledges this particular kind of grief, the grief of the person who knew, who fought, who was right, and who was not listened to. The grief that contains not only loss, but injustice. The grief that asks not only where did my loved one go, but why was their life not protected with the same urgency I was trying to give it? The world will not let you grieve that grief in full. People will tell you, kindly, that doctors are doing their best, that medicine is imperfect, that these things happen. And you will not, because you are gracious, because you know that they mean well, because you do not have the energy to explain again that you are not angry at the imperfection of medicine. You are angry at the specific person who chose to move too fast in a moment when slowing down might have changed everything. That distinction matters, and God knows it. Don't skip this. You're about to find out something very important. Heaven has been watching you carry this. The Tuesday night when you ate alone at a table that used to hold so much more life, God was sitting across from you. The Sunday mornings at church when you smiled at the people around you, because the alternative was to fall apart in public, God saw behind the smile. The moment in the middle of the grocery store, when a smell or a song brought everything back and you had to grip the cart and breathe through it, God was standing right beside you. He counted every tear you did not allow yourself to shed in public. He witnessed every moment you held your composure for the sake of the people around you who needed you to be strong. He was present in the nights when you could not be strong, when you lay in the dark and let yourself feel the full weight of what you had lost and what you believed had been taken. None of that was unseen. All of it was recorded. All of it was witnessed by the God who keeps covenant with the grieving. And here is the absolution that heaven is speaking over you today, and I need you to receive it in every cell of your body. You did not go wrong. This was not your failure. You did everything that love could do. You pushed, you questioned, you advocated, You fought with every tool available to you within a system that was not designed to make fighting easy. And the outcome, the terrible, devastating outcome, was not the result of any failing on your part. It was the result of someone else's error. And God is not confused about whose error it was. This would be a sacred moment to subscribe to this channel, my beloved child, if you have not already. When you subscribe and turn on the bell, you are not simply following a channel. You are telling destiny that you are committed to receiving every prophetic word, every divine message, every healing declaration that heaven sends through this place. You are planting a seed of continued breakthrough. Do it now as an act of faith and then come back to this word. The anger you have felt, that deep, righteous, consuming anger, is not a character flaw. It is evidence of how deeply you loved. You cannot feel the kind of anger you have been feeling unless you loved the person you lost with everything you had. And God honors that love. He honors the devotion behind the anger. He honors the justice it is pointing toward. And He is not asking you to lay it down before it has been answered. He is asking you to trust Him with it, to put it in His hands, knowing that His hands are strong enough to hold it and just enough to address it. Type, "I did not go wrong" in the comments right now. Type it as your declaration of freedom from the false guilt that has been sitting on your shoulders. You did not go wrong. Say it again. I did not go wrong. Archangel Michael is introducing what heaven calls a holy haunting, a divine, relentless reminder that God places in the conscience of those who have caused harm, working through every ordinary experience of their life to bring them back to the truth they have been avoiding. A patient's gratitude that suddenly feels hollow. A colleague's praise that rings empty. An award or commendation that should feel like affirmation, but instead feels like an accusation. God is using all of it. Every gift they receive, every recognition they enjoy, is shadowed now by the question they have not been able to answer. Did I do right by every patient who trusted me? And the answer, in your loved one's case, is pressing on them like a weight they cannot set down. Pay close attention to what I am about to tell you, because Archangel Michael is now going to show you the specific memories that God is using to convict the person who failed you. These are the moments being pressed into their mind in the quiet hours. This is what they cannot escape. The first memory is the sound of your voice in that appointment, not the words alone, but the specific quality of it, the way your voice carried the weight of someone who had been watching and worrying for a long time. A doctor who truly listens can hear the difference between a family member who is simply anxious and one who knows their loved one deeply and is describing something real. Your voice was the second kind, and somewhere in their memory they can still hear it, and now they hear it differently than they did that day. The second memory is the look on your loved one's face, the way they sat in the examination room trusting, the particular vulnerability of a person who has put their health, their life, in the hands of another human being and is hoping to be seen clearly. That face is not leaving the person who failed them. It surfaces at unexpected moments, in the face of another patient, in a photograph, in the mirror, in the tired hours of a long shift, when they look up and see someone they do not entirely recognize looking back. Don't move. This is the part where the healing begins to move through you. The third memory is the feeling of that appointment ending too quickly, the handshake that was too brief, the door that opened too soon, the sense which you felt, and they are now beginning to feel that something important was left unfinished in that room. Nobody in your loved one's life rushes them the way that room rushed them. Nobody who loved them treated their time as an inconvenience, and that contrast is becoming impossible to ignore. The fourth memory is your loved one's hands, the specific, particular, unrepeatable hands of the person you loved. Heaven knows their hands the way they moved, the things they built or cooked or held, the way they reached for yours when they were afraid. Those hands trusted the medical system. Those hands held on as long as they could. And those hands are remembered now not only by you and by God, but in some quiet corner of the conscience of the person who should have fought harder for the body those hands belong to. Type, "My loved one is not forgotten," in the comments. Let it be a declaration for them. Let it be a marker that their life is recorded in the heavenly ledger, where no name is ever lost. My beloved child, I need you to receive what I am about to say. This is the prophetic climax of everything heaven has been building toward in this message. Archangel Michael is not delivering a word of comfort only. He is delivering a word of divine action, and the action is already in motion. Something is about to move in the realm of accountability. I cannot tell you the exact form it will take because God works through many channels, through many hands, through many moments that look ordinary from the outside but are anything but. It may come through a process that is already underway. It may come through a conversation that is prompted by a person who witnessed what you witnessed. It may come through the quiet, interior collapse of a person who has been living under the weight of unacknowledged truth until that weight finally becomes impossible to carry. But it is coming. Don't skip this. Something very big is already on its way. Stop counting days and start counting signs. The signs that the divine reckoning is already in motion are around you. The sense of peace that has begun to replace some of the acute rage, that is a sign. The fact that you found this message in this moment, when you needed to be told that heaven has not forgotten, that is a sign. The dream you may have had, in which your loved one appeared not suffering but peaceful, not angry but at rest, that is a sign. Heaven is not far away from your situation. Heaven is inside it. And in the realm of the person who failed your loved one, a turning point is arriving. It may have already begun. There is a moment that comes for every person who has caused harm and has not yet spoken the truth of it. A moment when continuing to avoid that truth costs more than facing it. That moment is arriving for the person you think of when you listen to these words. The cost of their silence is rising. The comfort of their denial is thinning, and the path toward honesty, toward reckoning, toward some form of acknowledgement, that path is becoming the only one that offers any rest. Archangel Michael is saying, the connection between grief held in silence and the body that carries that silence is not a spiritual abstraction, it is a physical reality. The tension you have carried in your shoulders, the tightness in your chest, the sleep that has been harder to come by since the loss. These are not signs of weakness. They are signs of the weight of an injustice that has not yet been fully addressed. And as the addressing begins in the spirit, in the conscience of those responsible, in whatever earthly form God chooses, you will begin to feel the weight change. You will begin to breathe differently. The healing that medicine and time alone have not been able to fully reach is coming through the door of divine justice. Type, justice is already moving in the comments. Type it as a prophetic agreement. You are not wishing for something distant. You are agreeing with something that is already happening in the heavenly realm. There are people battling silent storms who will never walk into a church, but they will click on a message like this. When you give through the link in the description or pinned comment, you help us meet them there. You help us speak truth where confusion reigns. You help us proclaim Christ where compromise has grown loud. This isn't about sustaining a platform, it's about standing in the gap for someone eternity bound. Your seed becomes truth for the deceived, strength for the weary, invitation for the lost. And while we may never know every name this side of heaven, God does. If you've ever prayed, Lord, use me, this is one way He does. Join the mission. Let's carry the gospel further, together. But Archangel Michael does not stop at justice. He never does. Because heaven's economy does not work on the principle of breaking, even it works on the principle of restoration. And restoration is always greater than what was taken. The years that were stolen, the years with your loved one that the delay cost you, the conversations you did not get to have, the ordinary days that were cut short. Those years are called in the prophetic tradition the locust years. And God's word says that He will restore what the locust has eaten. The restoration will not look the way you expect. It cannot give you back the person you lost, and heaven knows that is the only thing you truly want. And heaven sits with you in the tenderness of that truth. But restoration looks like this. The years you have ahead of you not being poisoned by unresolved injustice. Your body releasing the grief weight it has been carrying. Your mind finding rest in the knowledge that heaven has not overlooked what was done. Your spirit being freed from the question that has haunted you. Was anyone ever going to answer for this with a resounding, divine, irrevocable, yes, don't skip this. Something very important is still coming. If there are grandchildren in your life, or children, or younger family members, they are watching the way you move through this. They are absorbing, without knowing they are absorbing, the testimony of a person who held on to faith in the middle of grief, who stayed angry at the right things and did not become bitter at the wrong things, who kept their integrity when they had every reason to let it go. That testimony will be passed down. It will outlast you. It will be the thing someone tells a story about decades from now, about the person who went through the hardest season and came out of it still standing. The financial dimensions of this, if there are outstanding matters related to your loved one's care, to medical costs, to any legal proceedings that have begun or may begin, Archangel Michael is saying that heaven is not neutral on those matters. God is not disinterested in earthly justice. He works through earthly channels. He moves through the hands of attorneys and advocates and review boards, and the quiet persistence of people who refuse to let a truth be buried. If you have felt prompted to pursue some form of accountability and have not known if it was worth the fight, heaven is saying today, keep going, keep pressing. The outcome is not yet fully written. Your loved one's legacy is not finished. Their name is not forgotten. There are people whose lives they touched who carry something of them still, a phrase they said, a way they laughed, a kindness they showed that lodged in someone's memory and has never left, and the story of what happened to them, including the story of the person who fought for them, who was right, who never stopped believing they deserved better. That story belongs to the canon of the faithful. It belongs in the great ledger of those who loved well, even when the systems around them failed. Share this message with one person who is carrying what you are carrying. You may know exactly who needs it. The friend who lost someone and has never been given permission to be angry about how it happened. Share it with them. When you share this word, you extend the anointing, you multiply the blessing, you become the instrument through which heaven reaches someone who needs to hear that they were right to be angry and that the anger has been heard. Type, "My loved one's legacy lives on," in the comments. Type it as a seal over their memory. Let it be a declaration that carries weight in the spirit and in the world. My beloved child, we are at the closing of this sacred hour, and I want to ask you to do something before you move on with your day. Close your eyes for a moment, if you are somewhere safe to do so. Picture the face of your loved one, not as they looked in the last difficult days, but as they looked when they were well, when they were full of themselves, full of life, full of the particular irreplaceable energy that was entirely their own. See their face, see the way they looked at you, see the love that passed between you, the ordinary, extraordinary daily love that doesn't know what it is until it is gone. Now hold that image and know that what heaven is doing is not a resurrection of that body, it is something different. It is a resurrection of the truth about that person's worth, a resurrection of the justice owed to them, a resurrection of the peace that was stolen from you when the system failed both of you. It is a resurrection of a bond between you that no medical error, no dismissal, no unjust outcome can dissolve, because love does not end. It only changes form. Here are the 3 things heaven is asking you to do as you close this message. First, type your declaration in the comments. Type, "God is my justice and my peace." Type it as your covenant with heaven, your agreement that you are releasing the weight of this injustice into hands stronger than yours, while trusting that those hands are already moving. Second, share this message with one person, just one who has been carrying something similar in silence, someone who was right and was not listened to, someone whose anger has been misunderstood or minimized. You will know who they are. Share it with them today. When you share this word, you become the messenger. You extend the anointing into their life. Third, if you have not yet subscribed to this channel, do so now. Turn on the bell. Tell Destiny that you are staying, that you are committed to receiving every word that heaven sends through this place. You are not subscribing to a channel. You are planting a seed of continued blessing in the soil of your spirit. It is done. What heaven has declared today over your life, over your grief, over your anger, over the memory of your loved one, it is done. Receive it, believe it, watch it manifest in ways that will make you come back to this message and say, "It happened. It actually happened, just like heaven said it would." Go in the peace that passes understanding, my beloved child. You were right to be angry, and heaven has heard you. And the angel who stands at the threshold of justice has been dispatched on your behalf. You do not walk out of this hour the same way you walked in. Something has shifted. Something has been loosed. And what was loosed today will not return to its bonds. Amen.